Bound by Midnight by Sienna Kingsley. Chapter 1. Eyes Across a Room. The city of London shimmered beneath a veil of misty rain, its streets glistening like polished onyx under the glow of lamplight. In Mayfair, where elegance reigned supreme, the world felt untouched by time. Townhouses stood like sentinels of refinement, their grand facades wrapped in ivy and mystery. Even the air seemed infused with wealth and whispered secrets. Inside the Rosemorn Club, a private haven of opulence, velvet laughter mingled with the sound of crystal glasses clinking. Beneath the glow of an antique chandelier, Lady Evelyn Carrington descended the sweeping staircase. Her satin gown, the color of spilled champagne, caught the light as if woven with threads of pure gold. Diamonds nestled at her throat like captured stars, and her crimson lips curved into a smile that spoke of both invitation and danger. She paused midway, surveying the room below, a sea of tailored tuxedos and shimmering gowns, all gathered for a charity gala as much about appearances as philanthropy. Evelyn's gaze flitted from one familiar face to another, her practiced charm masking her growing boredom. Until it landed on him. He stood at the edge of the ballroom, near a gilded archway that led to the terrace. Tall and broad-shouldered, his bespoke suit fit him with the precision of a sculptor's hand. Midnight hair swept back from a face that was both devastating and unreadable. His presence cut through the room like a blade. Evelyn's breath hitched, a momentary lapse that infuriated her even as it thrilled her. As if sensing her gaze, he turned. His eyes, a piercing grey, locked onto hers. The crowd seemed to blur, their polite murmurs and laughter fading into a distant hum. He inclined his head ever so slightly, a gesture both formal and intimate. Evelyn felt the air shift, charged with something unspoken yet undeniable. "Lady Carrington," a voice broke her trance. Turning, she found herself face to face with Lord Alastair Pembroke, an affable man whose fortune could not buy him intrigue. He extended a hand. "May I have the pleasure of this dance?" Evelyn's smile returned, practiced and flawless. "Of course," she said, though her attention remained tethered to the enigmatic stranger. As Alastair led her onto the dance floor, she caught another glimpse of him. He had moved to the terrace, the faint glow of a cigar illuminating his profile against the night. The waltz began, the orchestra weaving a melody as intricate as the lace on Evelyn's gloves. Alastair prattled on about his latest investments, but her thoughts strayed to the man outside. Who was he? She had met nearly every player in London's elite, and none of them possessed his gravity. He felt like a shadow intruding on her perfectly lit world, a reminder that even the brightest diamonds cast darkness. As the dance concluded, Evelyn excused herself with a charm that left Alastair none the wiser. She drifted toward the terrace, her heels whispering against the marble floor. The cool night air greeted her as she stepped outside, the city's hum muted by the garden's high stone walls. He was there, leaning against the balustrade, the faint curl of cigar smoke wreathing his profile. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, summoning her courage, she approached. "You're remarkably good at brooding," she said, her voice light but tinged with challenge. He turned, the ghost of a smile playing on his lips. Up close, his presence was even more arresting, a dangerous elegance that seemed to unmask her carefully curated poise. "And you," he replied, his voice a low, rich timbre, "are remarkably good at pretending not to stare." Evelyn's lips parted, a retort forming, but it caught in her throat as he stepped closer. He extended a hand, gloved in black leather. "Alexander Drake." She hesitated only a fraction of a second before placing her hand in his. "Evelyn Carrington." "I know," he said, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "You're difficult to miss." She laughed softly, a sound both genuine and deflective. "And you, Mr. Drake, are remarkably enigmatic. Are you here for the gala, or simply to haunt the terrace?" "A bit of both," he said, his smile deepening. "Though I suspect the more interesting part of the evening has only just begun." Evelyn felt the weight of his words and the promise they carried. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen, not as Lady Carrington, society's darling, but as a woman. A thrill coursed through her, as potent as any champagne. "Perhaps you're right," she said, her voice softer now. "But beware, Mr. Drake." Midnight in Mayfair has a way of binding those who dare to linger. I'll take my chances, he murmured, his hand brushing hers in a fleeting, electric touch. Before she could reply, the sharp chime of her bracelet's communicator broke the moment. Evelyn's smile faltered as she glanced at the subtle device, a discreet nod to modernity amidst her classic attire. A name flashed, Charles. "Excuse me," she said, stepping back reluctantly. "Family matters." Alexander's eyes lingered on her, unreadable yet intense. "Of course. I'll see you inside." Evelyn nodded, her heart sinking as she turned and made her way to a quiet alcove. Charles's voice greeted her, urgent and firm. "We have a situation, Evelyn. We need you at the estate, immediately." The details were vague, but the tone left no room for delay. She returned to the ballroom only briefly, searching for Alexander, but he was nowhere to be seen. As she gathered her things, she paused by the terrace doors and froze. There he was, walking toward the club's exit, but not alone. A stunning blonde clung to his arm, her dress a daring cascade of silver that barely covered her lithe frame. She laughed at something he said, her hair a golden waterfall in the low light. Evelyn's chest tightened, humiliation and something sharper blooming within her. She watched as Alexander held the door open for the blonde, his expression inscrutable but undeniably engaged. And then they were gone, swallowed by the night. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt utterly out of control. And she hated it. Evelyn arrived at their family's city mansion in Belgravia. Charles was waiting for her. His tie was loosened, and worry etched deep lines into his normally composed features. "What is it?" she asked, her voice steady despite the unease swirling inside her. "It's father. He's had a heart attack. He's in the hospital." Evelyn's breath caught, the weight of the news pressing down on her chest. "How serious?" Charles shook his head. "They're doing everything they can. We need to go." The drive to St. George's Hospital was a blur of flashing city lights. Memories of their father, his booming laughter, his unyielding presence, flooded her mind, each one a bittersweet reminder of his larger-than-life persona. When they arrived, a nurse directed them to the intensive care unit, where a doctor awaited them with a grave expression. "I'm sorry," he said softly, his words like a knife cutting through the fragile hope Evelyn had clung to. "We did everything we could, but he passed away a short while ago." Evelyn's knees threatened to give way, but Charles caught her. All she could think of was the finality of it all, the sudden, irreversible end of the man who had shaped their lives. And in the quiet recesses of her mind, unbidden and unwelcome, came the thought of Alexander Drake, his grey eyes burning in her memory like a brand.